Okay, let's try this again. Guys, I've done this intro like 35,000 times and I just can't get it in one pass. Hey guys, what's up? Happy Friday. I am so glad that you're here. I hope you guys all had a great week. For those of you that are new, my name is Orly Shani. This is the DIY designer. I do really great DIY fashion. Sometimes I do home decor and sometimes I do beauty, but mainly I focus on fashion because I'm obsessed with having a wardrobe that's like one of a kind and totally custom and very me. And I'm obsessed with inspiring you guys to do that as well. I'm also starting to do bonus videos on Sundays, and I have one planned not for this coming Sunday, but I think the Sunday after, and it's really great. It's like a compilation of different holiday DIY decor ideas. Really fun. But today, let's discuss today because they make for the perfect holiday gift. Seriously, because they are super affordable, they are totally one of a kind, and they're unisex. And they come together like that. So basically what we're gonna do today are tie-dye winter accessories. Now I'm gonna focus mainly on tie-dye like beanies, but I am also gonna show like a neck gaiter and socks. That way, in case you wanna make like a little gift set sort of idea, that would be super cute. You wanna make sure that the hat that you get is 100% cotton or 100% natural fiber of some sort. The hats that I used, I got on Amazon. So if you are able to order from Amazon, I'll link them below. Not only are they 100% cotton, so they take all the dye really, really well, but because they're cotton, they're really soft and breathable. You know, sometimes you get that like itchy wool hat. These are breathable, comfortable, and they're machine washable, which is fantastic. I also bought some faux fur pom-poms to kind of put on the back of the hat. I think that really goes a long way in making it feel like boutique. Like it really looks like something store-bought. What else? Oh, I did also feature this sweatshirt. I just threw it in because I was doing it. So if you guys caught my sweatshirt upcycle video from a couple of weeks ago, this was the padded shoulder one that I did. And the inspo for that was this really cool like tie-dye olive green sweatshirt that I loved. So while I had out all my stuff, I decided like I might as well throw this one in. And I wore it on the show today and I got so many compliments. Speaking of the show, this DIY actually originally was something I did on Home and Family, but I could only show a couple of versions. So in this video, I'm really going in depth. We're not only doing all the tie-dye versions, but I'm also showing you how to do a really cool ombre dye, which is an amazing technique you can apply to anything. And we're gonna do reverse tie-dye. Okay, I'll stop talking. Let's get right into materials. I'm so excited. This is so fun. So for this project, I decided to try this dye. I've never used it before. I have no idea if it's good. Generally, I'm obsessed with my jacquard powder dyes, which are super saturated, but I did like how this was like a one-stop shop. It had rubber bands, it had gloves, it even had like a plastic sheet that I could use to protect my surface. So that's the first thing you're gonna do regardless, is set up a place to actually work. And there's a couple things you need. One is something to protect your surface. Another would be something like this, a drainage of some sort. This was a wire shelf that I always use for my dyeing projects, because it will allow the dye to seep through and not pool up in the back, adjusting the color. Now, you want to soak everything. You can soak it in soda ash if you want. You don't need to, but just make sure that everything is soaked and then use your hands to squeeze out the excess moisture. You want to make sure that it's still damp but not soaking wet. Now, pick your colors. Basically, just look at everything you've got, decide on the colors that you want. I wouldn't get super specific here. You just kind of think about the colors you want to wear. That way, when they blend together, they look really nice. So here is my first one that I'm going to do. What I did is just lay it flat, and for this one, I wanted to do a crumple technique. That's what I do for the majority of them, because it almost gives it this like soft watercolor look, which I love. Once you crumple, just grab some rubber bands and start binding it up so that it's tight. The tighter it is, the more white you're gonna have. The looser it is, the more dye is gonna seep through those fibers on the inside. Now on this one, I did a spiral, and as always, if you're doing a spiral, you know the deal. Find a center point that you want to focus on, twist, 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 and then you sort of like pizza slice all of your rubber bands so that they're basically in like 6 different triangles. Now, if you want to do socks, you are just going to kind of fold them up any way you want. Now, I was super bummed. When I bought these socks, I looked them up and typed in 100% cotton, but didn't notice that it actually gave me a search result that was not. So when I wash these, almost all the color comes out, but the technique is the same. And again, as long as you're using 100% cotton, it's all going to take and it's going to look great. Now, I laid everything and I just separated them out. That way the colors are never going to touch each other and blend, and I could dye them all at the same time. This first one, I'm using orange. At first I thought I just wanted basically an all orange and white beanie, really good, strong, saturated color. I end up adding in a couple other colors into this, and it's now one of my favorite ones. I add in like a little bit of fuchsia and like a really dark, almost purpley color just for some depth. When you move on to your next one, you either want to switch gloves or you want to make sure to clean your gloves, because anywhere that you touch the hat, you are going to get like different dye colors transferring, and you don't want that. So just make sure to be really careful about always protecting your space and your gloves and kind of new each time. Now for the spiral, you just kind of work in like opposite angles. So if you do red on one side, you do the opposite triangle, black on one side, the opposite triangle, and so on. Here are the socks. Originally I did my denim blue and my purple just in stripes. When they open up, they look really great, but again, it was super annoying because they basically washed out. Now this is for the neck gaiter. I just bought some French terry and cut them into long rectangles. I'm gonna do a simple side seam down the back, and I will link a neck gaiter mask video that I did because it will show you more specifically how you can make the pattern. Now this is something fun that I was gonna do for home and family, and you'll see it at the end. I wanted to make a Santa hat. I thought a tie-dye Santa hat would be really great. There it is, that's the finished one with a matching neck gaiter. So all I did is cut my fabric basically into a triangle with a rounded bottom and then hand sewed on some faux fur. I'm not gonna show you guys how I make that whole one because it's super random, but I am just gonna show you the dyeing process. So here is one of the neck gaiters. Again, it's just a straight rectangular piece of French terry that I've spiraled up. Always clean off your grate when you're moving on to the next one so that, again, you don't transfer any dye that's left over on your surface. This is the Santa hat. I decided to dye it before I actually sewed it. That way I would have more control over the spiral. And another tip in general is whenever you're doing a spiral, always make sure that the right side of your fabric is flat down. Something about the pressure it creates on the table gives you that perfect spiral right there. So I always make sure to face the right side down. Now, I'm gonna be doing the same colors because I want them to be a matching set. Remember that your primary colors are really all that you need. So what I did was mainly like my pink, my blue, and my yellow, and then anywhere that the yellow touches the pink and the blue, I get those medium colors, which is my orange and my green. So again, you don't need to have all the different variations of color as long as you have your primary colors, but if you've got this set, go for it. So here, these two guys are done. I was doing another pair of socks, and again, while these didn't work, I wanted to show you the color. If you mix yellow with like a denim blue, you get a really cool olive green tone. See that color? I love these colors, and I wish I had done this on a hat. You have a pop of yellow there, you've got the really great denim blue, and where they mix together, it's an olive green. Now this is something really fun that you can do when you've got your workstation that has all your colors sort of dripped down. I actually took a hat that I had crumpled and I'm just dabbing it into all the leftover dye. It's gonna give me kind of like an ink blot, and this ends up being one of my favorite hats. So basically you don't like swipe it up and clean it all up. Otherwise when the colors mix, they'll turn brown. Just hold it, dab it down like a stamp into the color, dab it down. And what you're gonna see is you're gonna get a really great starting point. I needed to add more color when I was done, but this gave me a really good place to start, and then I could kind of decide where I wanted to add like little pops of color. I'm sorry, I don't know why I had it shooting at this angle. My arm keeps like blocking what I'm doing. But basically I've got my pink and my yellow, and I'm just like dropping in little droplets where I feel like it needs a brighter color or a darker color. But the majority of my structure was just created off of blotting it in my excess dye that had dripped down from my wire shelf. Okay, so here is everything drying. You can see I've got it all on another metal shelf that's clean, and I'm just letting it dry. You wanna let it sort of soak for about 24 hours. However, after about 2 or 3 hours, I like to open them and see what they look like, and that's what this one came out like. That's the ink blot one. Isn't it cool? It's my favorite. So even though I'm opening them, I'm not gonna wash them yet. Give them a ton of time. Give them at least 24 hours. This is the one that originally was all red, but you can see, or orange, excuse me, but you can see I added in some darker color because when it was done, I just felt like it needed a little more dimension. There is my neck gaiter, really great spiral. It fades out just a teeny bit, but still looks really cool. Now here's the green socks, there's the hat, the rest of the socks. You can see they come out super cute. Again, if they were 100% cotton, I would love them wearing them as like over the knee socks with boots. So cute during the winter. You could have a matching hat, makes for such a wonderful gift. All right, I had two quick ideas and I wanna show them to you. This is the ombre one. Now, in order to do ombre, I figured out that I could actually use one of those continuous spray water bottles. They're like the ones used for hair and makeup and stuff like that, but they basically mimic an airbrush without the cost of a professional airbrush. So what you're gonna do is a light mist all over and then get super saturated on the top or the bottom, wherever you want your saturation to be. Flip it over to do the same thing to the back, and then make sure that you do your sides, because you're gonna get a crease there on the side. Make sure it's all even on all sides. Once you feel like it's good, leave it to dry, give it a little more of a focus right on the top. Now, this is the reverse tie-dye. Again, because these hats were 100% cotton, I can do a reverse tie-dye with bleach as well, and this ends up being one of my favorites. So all I'm doing is kind of like, I don't know, like almost wringing it out and then rubber banding it that way. So it's not anything really focused, it's not a crumple, it's not a spiral, it's just basically like tied up. That way I'll get some bleach and I'll get some charcoal. Now I'm just using regular bleach, 100% Clorox, and I am putting it in a squirt bottle because I think it's better than dunking it, because again, I don't want to saturate the whole thing. If you want even less saturation, you would actually want your beanie to be dry instead of wet, but I want to have a softer look, which is why I let mine kind of be wet. So here it is. I sort of just rolled it over and did all sides, and you can see it's starting to take the color really well. Now, this is the little bonus thing I was talking about. If you don't want to do the sweatshirt, you can just fast forward, but basically this was that padded shoulder tee. It's 100% cotton, so I thought it would be perfect to do this kind of reverse tie-dye situation. Again, I crumpled it, added a ton of rubber bands so that it was super tight, and then I just went in with my spray bottle and started kind of just adding in the bleach. I didn't soak it because again, I want a good amount of the charcoal left, but you flip it, you do both sides, and then you can see, I kind of do a bit of a time lapse, you can see as that color starts to take, and when it washes, it almost becomes like a soft blush pink, like even paler than this. It still looks kind of orange. Now again, after a few hours, I like to cut open all my rubber bands and see where I'm at so I know if I want to make changes, but I don't wash it yet. I let it sit for a little while. Here's one side of it. I actually like the back side a little bit better where there's more charcoal, and that's how I end up wearing this hat, is reversed on the other side. And I'm gonna add a pom-pom to this little guy as well. And here's how the sweatshirt came out. Obviously you saw it in the intro, it looks so great. And because they're both bleached and charcoal, I just threw them in the wash at the same time to save some water. So they're both gonna be washed and then I'm good to go. However, I did have a bit of an issue with the purple hat, the ombre one. It was sitting right here, and after the gardeners came, I came out to look at it. The floor was all wet, and I think maybe it like kicked up some bleach or something because there's got like little spots all over it. I'm super bummed. So I washed it, and I'm trying to add a little bit more dye to it. That way I can like kind of refresh it, but I won't be able to model it or take photos. My brother's on his way here, and it's still soaking wet. So you can still get a sense of what it looks like. You can see the little bleach spots there, but you know, you can get a sense of it even though it's not perfect. I'm so bummed. It was so cute. And the last thing we're gonna do is add a pom-pom. So this is something you guys can do on any hat, not even one you make. It's a great way of adding a detail. Grab a needle and thread that has a knot. You wanna put the needle through the inside of the hat and come up right at the top center, like right at the crown. Since you've got a knot, it will stick into place, and grab your pom-pom. Now, a lot of them have these little elastic loops on them because they're meant for keychains and hats and all that kind of stuff. If yours does, then just loop it right through the elastic, go back down where you came, and you'll see when you pull tight, it's just going to pull the pom-pom right up to the hat until boop, it's connected. And there you go. Now you're gonna wanna do maybe 2 or 3 of these just so that it's super strong. Just go back in, do it a couple of times, and now you're gonna knot it off. Find the center on the inside. You're gonna start a stitch. You're gonna put your needle through the hole. Instead of completing the stitch, put the needle through the hole, and there you go. You've got it on. All right. That's it, man. I hope that you guys like this one. I am gonna share some photos of how they came out. I'm not gonna do my full like normal modeling sesh because it's just hats. I like, you know, how many different poses can I do with hats? So I'm just gonna show you some photos of the finished product. And at the very end, I'll include that footage for a home and family if you wanna see what that segment came out like. All right, guys, I hope you have a beautiful week. I'll see you here next Friday for another great DIY and a bonus on Sunday, next Sunday. All right, I love you guys. Bye.
tie-dye queen herself, Orly Shani. Orly, I'm prepped and ready to go.
How fun is this?
You.
I know, I'm super into it. And I gotta say, my favorite thing about this is that tie-dye obviously has been a huge trend. It's everywhere. It's super expensive now. Every high-end designer is doing it. But the fact that we can bring it to our winter accessories, which is when I feel like we normally get a little more dark, unless you're me and you do all the pink. This is an opportunity to bring in a pop of color that you can just pop onto your head. You could do it with socks, anything like that. And the technique is essentially the same.
You're so good. These are so fun. And I know your family agrees. I mean, they do. This is really great. This is something you're doing with the whole team.
This is something we do together. This summer, we actually did like a huge tie-dye challenge. We were up in Ojai, and everybody did probably 3 or 4 different things. And it was so fun because the kids got into it. They did it to old, like, you know, graphic sweatshirts and all these different things. And then we took a family photo, even my dad. And that is saying something.
That is, I mean, that says that everybody's going to enjoy this, everyone.
Yeah.
That's right. So pay attention. Here we go. Now, I was surprised to learn that when you start tying, you want to make sure that your material is soaked first because it absorbs the tie better that way?
Absolutely.
I would have thought a dry material would have.
Yeah, so there's 2 things you can do. You can soak your clothing in something called soda ash. Totally optional, but if something is brand new, it will remove any, like, almost like factory manufacturing, like, residue that could be on it.
Okay.
Even if you don't do that, though, you want to make sure that it is fully soaked and then just, like, wrung dry. Not dry.
Okay,
you also
good.
really want to work with natural fibers. So you want either 100% cotton, 100% silk, rayon. Those are the fabrics that are going to actually take the dye. If you accidentally get polyester, you're going to be super sad when you wash it. And it's like, wah, wah, and it all goes away.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah. So the tighter it is, the more white will stay. The looser it is, the more overall. So, yeah.
You can't really go wrong. You can learn from, you know, what you're doing.
Yeah.
But just experiment,
can't mess it up.
Have a good time.
Exactly. And
Now,
Cameron, I will tell you that the more perfect you try to be, the more bummed out. It's never going to be exactly what you think, but it's always going to be cool.
Let's prep the dye.
Okay, so basically when you have your dye, really just all that means is prepare the dye in squeezy bottles based off the type that you got. So if you had a powder dye, you mix it with water. If you bought like a liquid dye, you probably want to dilute that with water as well. And now we are going to
This is
use
the magic, everybody.
This is the magic.
Okay.
I've got some black, which I diluted, so it will end up being a little bit more charcoal when it actually sort of dries.
Should I be rolling these over and doing dye on both sides?
Yes,
and stuff? Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
So once you do the one side, you're going to flip, and you're basically going to mimic it.
I'm going to keep you guessing here.
Oh, I like it. So you're just going to add your dye. Now, again, even if you were to cover this entire thing so you're not seeing any white, there is going to be white because that's what's being tied that we cannot see. So you can see here is one that I did. This was a crumple, and I pretty much dyed the whole thing. Now, I'm going to cut my rubber bands off.
Okay.
And when I open it up, you'll see that there's still going to be a good amount of white because the way that it's tied. So see, when this washes and all these colors start to soften just a little bit, it's going to be that really cool, like, watercolor look. So when you are washing it, you always want to make sure to wash every single item on their own. That's super important. You don't want to mix them together. Each thing needs to be washed by itself. And actually, one thing that I've really learned after having done this so many times is that you don't want to rinse it in the sink like a lot of people say you do, because the colors actually do blend that way because they're not being shocked with enough water. So you want to fill up your washing machine so it's full, then throw it in. And if you want a lot of white, like this guy here, you want to use something like a Clorox Color Safe, something that attacks the white but doesn't damage the color.
And now you're going to put the pom-pom on after. Is that the idea?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. So if you want pom-poms like I put on all these guys here, I will say that it really does make it look like official and store-bought because you can pick a color that's within your hat and tie it together. And to do that, there's 2 quick options I'll show you. Sometimes you'll buy pom-poms that actually have a little loop on them, like you can see. That's obviously the easiest way. If not, you're just gonna sew through a little bit of the meat of it. So you would take your needle and thread, you would go inside your hat and come right up from the center, and I'm not actually gonna sew the whole thing, but you'll get a sense of it right through the center there, and then I would go through the loop that's already in my pom-pom, and then right back down.
Orly,
you do that maybe 2 or 3 times, and this little guy is on.
You really are the tie-dye queen. And by the way, I'm maybe like a prince in the making, because this is
Those look so good.
I did pretty well. I mean, that's not bad. I know what I'm wearing on the show tomorrow, everybody.
That's a big success.
Check out my socks tomorrow. Orly, you're amazing.
Thank you for your help.
This is so great. Full instructions, everybody. Head over to hallmarkchannel.com and check out more from Orly at the DIYdesigner.com as well.